Good morning again. We are here with Slim Sam, Sam from Iran. Last time we spoke to Sam, we talked about the general conditions of life in Iran, about the way the family knits together over there. Some people still prefer to call it Persia, embarrassed about the new name, but Sam's not at all. He loves Iran, loves it very much. It's his home country and his family's there. The archaeology, the history, etc., the religion, everything. But he's settled in the Philippines. And Sam is a chef. So today we're going to talk to him a little bit about why he settled in the Philippines and what he's doing there, and about some of the cooking in Iran and the Philippines here, what people like and what they prefer. So Sam, would you like to tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. Let's start from how I ended up being here. I came here September 2009, and I came here as a tourist. So I toured around the Philippines. I went everywhere. I visited all the islands, name it, from Siargao to Manila, to all the islands. And then my brother was studying here in Silliman.
What was he studying at that time, Sam?
He was studying IT.
IT, okay.
And then I came over and I fell in love with the place, because Dumaguete was this cute little town, no traffic, no big roads. Lee Plaza was the biggest shop you had. Robinson was not even built by then. Very kind and curious people, and it was like a really warm, welcoming feeling.
They are very lovely people here.
Yeah, very lovely people. So I fell in love with the place, and I decided to stay here. However, by times, over the past 10-11 years, the city completely changed. It's now a trafficked, industrial type of city. People are still kind, but you don't have that beautiful, fast rides that you could get. You could actually get a bike and you could drive around this town with 80-90 kilometers an hour, and there was nothing against you. But now it changed a little bit, but it's still a very lovely town.
It was and is a university town, so there's a lot of young people here as well. I think there's 8 universities here.
Maybe more. I really never counted, but yeah, there are a lot of them. Yeah,
and that's drawn a lot of people here actually over the years, and also involved a fair bit of building and improvements to infrastructure, a lot of new roads going in, which means a lot of new people, a lot more people, of course.
That's true. Dumaguete itself does not have that much of a big crowd, but everybody here is coming from all the other provinces, from Mindanao. We have people who come to study in Silliman from Manila, and a lot of foreign students who choose to study here because it's an American university at the end of the day, and the degree is approved in there while it's very cheap. You know how expensive studying is in USA.
Yes. I mean, it costs you as much to get a degree here as it would to go to a United States university for one semester.
I think even more, because I think it's like around 10,000 a semester in there.
In America?
Yeah.
Yeah.
While here you just pay 1,000 a semester, so I think for your whole 4-year school years you still pay less.
Yes.
In USA it's crazy. I have friends in there who told me some people still pay for their loans for studying when they are 50 years old.
Yes, I've heard that as well.
That's mad.
So tell me, you came here. What did you do when you first arrived?
I toured around.
I mean, after you settled in Dumaguete.
After I settled in, I enrolled in Silliman, and then by then I was not thinking of working because we were not under Trump sanctions or anything. Dollar was fine, and I had enough savings from my past. So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna live here on my savings. Things didn't plan that way later, but I was just studying in Silliman, enjoying my time in here, touring around. They have a few cute nightclubs and stuff back then that I used to go to. But so
you were just enjoying life?
Basically that.
And it's an easy thing to do here. The girls are very enjoyable.
Yep. Also very, if a lot of people come here and get married because the structure of the Philippines is very family oriented. People really care about family.
Very much like Iran.
Very much like Iran, and you don't have a lot of that, especially in the Western world anymore. So people really like it when they come here, and I know a lot of foreign friends who got married here.
Yes, and in the West these days, as soon as kids become of age, 18, 20, they get a job, they leave home. That's sort of the customary thing to do in the West these days.
Oh, worse than that either. I had friends who told me that their own child, like daughter or son, put them in jail because they just lightly punished the kid. There in the Western world, it's all becoming about personal rights, and nobody cares about the whole society or the family or anything. But here they are still very family oriented. There are things here that you could just say that maybe just not be right, but generally they are very family oriented. They care about each other. They are very protective of each other. And foreigners who come here really like that. And I'm not talking just about the elder ones. Even a lot of young foreigners came here and got married.
Yes, I was down Darwin the other day, and there was a couple of foreigners down there living here, working in IT for German companies, and they were only in their sort of late 20s. These days, working in IT, you're able to be anywhere in the world and still be connected, which is a wonderful thing.
That's true.
So you were a chef in Iran?
My uncle lived in Italy his whole life, and when I was just newly born, he came back to Iran, and he has started one of the biggest Italian restaurant chains all over the country.
A chain of restaurants?
Yeah, a chain of restaurants. We are talking about maybe 20 branches by then, 35 branches by now. And I worked for him since I was 6 years old.
6 years old?
That's where I learned how to toss pizza. That's my first experience in cooking. And I grew up basically working for him, cooking for him every summer. And then later I became a chef on his restaurant. And then for 3 years before I moved to my next job.
Just let me take you back there a little bit, Sam, because many people may cry about child labor, having you work at 6 years old. How did you feel about working at 6 years old? Were you still being educated?
Yeah, first of all, I would only work on summers, where I had a lot of free time. And I never considered that child labor, because child labor, you send the child to work and then you take the money to support the family. But every single money I was making was going to my pocket. Nobody was touching it. So it was basically like a training or a child experience rather than a child labor.
Yeah.
Would my parents take my money and put it in a bank and save it for me? Yes. But would they take it from me and, spend it for themselves? No, that never happened.
So that's part of also the family orientation.
Yeah, that's where your father decides what you do with your money.
Yeah.
I didn't like it as a 6 years old, but later I grew up to actually appreciate it, because by the time I was on a legal age, I had a good amount. Mm-hmm. I mean, good amount before Trump happening.
Yeah.
But I had a good amount in my bank, so I was happy about it.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you progressed to the stage that you were a chef in one of the restaurants?
Oh yeah, when you work as a 6-year-old child in a restaurant that each branch is selling around 200 to 300 pizzas a day, and I was a child just training, but it was not that soft of a job, because you have to toss 200 pizza breads every day, and we do it by hand. We do it traditional Italian way, so. As a first job, that was quite tough.
So it's not like Domino's or Pizza Hut where it's all rolled out for you with machines?
We don't have those rolling machines that kills all the air pockets in the pizza bread. No. It was all done the classic Italian way, the hand way. But I loved the job. I really always had a fascination for food ever since I was a child. So
that's not very evident.
Apparently not. So I never had a problem with it. I was enjoying it because to me, food is just more than something you eat. It's a huge part of our culture, our friendship and everything. You never gather with your friends over, talking politics or something. You gather over a dinner table or some drinks, right?
Yes, that's right. Time to enjoy yourself. Strangely enough, in the Philippines here, many provincial families, especially if they're very strongly religious oriented, forbid conversation over dinner. I mean, one family that I know, their auntie was a religious nun, And whenever she came to visit, they were actually forbidden for speaking at dinner time because food was a gift from God. And therefore, you had to be silent to appreciate it. It seemed insane to me, but that was the rule she had.
There are few people who go that extreme here, but most Filipinos, they actually like to talk and enjoy and celebrate food just like everybody else. But it's not just about Philippines. There are crazy people all over the world, I say.
Yes.
Let's not use the word crazy, let's use extremists. But there are extremists all over the world. So yeah, I have met some people from the rest of the world. I don't want to mention the place, that used to just pray 1 hour and 30 minutes before their meal, and by the time they were eating the meal, it was absolutely cold. And as a chef, I would say unedible. So yeah. I was like, why are you doing that? But hey, people do what people do, and we gotta respect what they believe in.
This is another thing that I find about the Philippines. Actually, very often you'll find that food will be cooked and left in the bain-marie, in the calendarias, etc., and people come along and eat it 2, 3, 4 hours after it's been cooked, and it's completely cold, and they think nothing about it.
Okay, that's about this, because this country is fairly new. Philippines has not been existing like 600 years ago. They were just little colonies, right? So as a new country, they are still lacking a lot of what we call common sense, but it's basically like basic social education. We are talking about a place where people plug out their refrigerators to save electricity, and they never ask themselves why there is no turn on and turn off button on it, if that's the case, right? But these are because they are new to these things, and they are not really informed how to do it. Food preservation is also another way. They are still doing it traditional way because the technology hasn't sit that well in here. When they want to preserve a food, they just make it super oily or a lot of vinegar on it, and they think that take care of it. And yes, they leave their food on the table with a bunch of
bowl to keep the flies off.
Yeah, and they think that will preserve it. But that's just because the knowledge is not yet that developed here, as it's a new country. But by times, it's getting better now. Now more families are using efficient electric gadgets to save their food and everything, but it takes time. It takes time everywhere. We were the same when our countries was just newly formed,
In Iran, your uncle came back from Italy, and so obviously Italian food went very well, probably because it was so much, the pizzas were so much closer to pita bread and shawarmas, etc. Is that right?
Actually not. If one day our government becomes free, so everybody can travel to Iran, you will find Iran to be the food capital of Earth. Because we have people who traveled all over the world, tried their food, they loved it, and they brought it back to Iran. And you will be surprised how original they are working. Like, I think we are one of the few countries on earth that has authentic food from everywhere in the world. I'm talking about Filipino restaurants, Japanese restaurants, Swiss restaurants. Of course, they cannot serve pork. They just make their schnitzel with beef, but still the recipe is original. German, Italian, French, you name it, we have it. We even have American bistros.
And hamburgers.
Yeah, but not a fast food version of hamburger. Our people are really caring about the quality of the food. They are not a big fan of fast food, really. So, but yeah.
So when you came to the Philippines here, you eventually opened your own restaurant?
Not at the very beginning. I met this Italian friend of mine, Manu, in 2014, and he opened a restaurant named Ciao Bella. And I was his first customer. And we were very good friends. And everything.
So Ciao Bella, that's hello beautiful? Is that what it means?
Yeah, that's what it means. Manu and girls, I don't want to go there. But Manu opened it first, and by times, because I also knew how to cook Italian, I worked as a chef in restaurant, we started cooking together a lot of times. Like sometimes when he was busy, I would just go ahead and help. So he knew I can cook. And by 2016, he had a heart attack and he passed away. And I took over the restaurant just to keep his memory on and everything. It didn't really work the way it was planned. The wife and the business partner situation, but that's how I started actually business here. I never planned to be a chef here, but I was just pushed in there. And funny because when I did it, it reignited all the fires, all the passion I had for cooking. So now I'm just doing it on my own.
So what's changed with COVID as far as the food industry is concerned?
Everything. Not just food industry, the whole world changed with COVID.
Yes.
Now you have people who are afraid to go out. You have people who don't make enough money like before. And at the same time, you have like these delivery only businesses growing up because people prefer to have their meal in their safe house with their family rather than going out and, reach themselves. Now, at the moment you are recording this video, Domagete is like 36 days without any COVID. But people are still afraid. This virus shook the whole world in a very, very dramatic way. And I'm just hoping by the end of this crazy 2020, that would be over.
I know. I was actually saw a couple of days ago a list of airports that were open in the Philippines and a list that were closed. And it surprised me that Dumaguete was still closed after there'd been no cases for 36 days.
I'm not really shocked because everywhere in Philippines where they opened the airports, the virus just flew in. So they are just being very protective and very cautious here. What I'm really hoping is not the government opening up things, is a cure or a vaccine would be fine for this crazy sickness. So we all can get rid of it.
So you're not one of these conspiracy theorists who believe that the vaccine is going to be used to kill a lot of people?
Oh, yeah, as if all the governments in the world want to kill people. And I always ask people, why would you think that way? If they want to kill all of you, who are they going to govern?
Good point.
There are a lot of crazy theories going on around. Apparently, people like to blame everybody but themselves for, when it goes to safety and these things matters. And all the theories I ever heard about this, first Bill Gates did it, and then Fauci did it. And gosh, I don't know who else did this virus, but apparently it has many owners and none of them claims it really.
So as far as your business is concerned, the restaurant that you opened up, you closed that down when COVID came?
You mean about the Shaubella?
Yeah.
The one I did with the menu. Yeah, we closed it down when the COVID came on because we realized that it's going to be bad business. For many months, people were not even allowed to open their restaurants, right? So I was like, why pay the expenses and the rent and everything? Let's just close it down. Yeah. And now I started a little something like home-cooked meals that I just deliver to people. And then we go from there. When the town opens again, that's the time we would consider opening the salon again.
And is that working out well for you?
It's doing good. I also offer like a special pandemic prices because I live here. I know how tough life is at this moment. So I also do not want to charge people the money they don't have. And people seem to appreciate that one.
Yes.
I have many students and customers who buy food from me because they know at that quality and that price point, they cannot find anything else even close to it. So.
And is it still Italian food that you're primarily cooking?
Actually, no. For home-cooked meals, I went a little bit ahead and I started making some sandwiches. Because I noticed that, especially when it goes to like authentic burgers and, steak sandwiches and stuff like that, this town is lacking. So I started producing that. I'm the first one in the whole Domagete who uses authentic Japanese Wagyu meat to make some steak sandwiches and stuff like that.
Yes, if you appreciate good meat, you appreciate the Wagyu.
Yeah, and the prices are always like even lower than a regular steak sandwich you can find around here because it's pandemic price. So.
The politics here, how does this compare with, let's say, other places that you're aware of?
Well, as a foreigner, we are not allowed to talk politics about Philippines. Like it's officially banned by the government for us to say anything. So I would rather stay away from the politics here. I would just say generally as people, I think the whole world is very similar. If you travel all around the world the way you did and the way I did, you realize that when you put some few shallow issues around, everybody has the same chord. We all love our families, we all love our friends, we all want peace, we all want a good life. Those are like the basics that every human being shares, and Filipinos are not that away from it.
I was reading an article just the other day about the First World War, when Christmas came and both sides of the war laid down their arms and celebrated Christmas for about 3 days. And the people in the trenches, they were playing cricket, they were playing cards, they were swapping pictures of their wives and generally got on very, very well. And it was proposed that the peace would have actually continued and the war might have stopped if it wasn't for the generals far away from the action who actually promoted the war to start again. Otherwise, it might have actually been stopped there and then at Christmas because, as you say, people are just people.
Well, actually, when you read the history, it happened many times that one stupid man kind of like changed the life of a mankind in a worse manner. I ask each and every American friend I have right here, please go vote on 2020 and change that one because we are just this close from another crazy man changing the whole world. But it happened many times.
We wouldn't know who you were talking about there.
No, we wouldn't know.
You did tell me last time we spoke, after we finished, you did tell me a very interesting story about the comparison between capitalism, socialism, and communism. Would you like to share that in a general sense?
Oh yeah, sure. That would be a handful, but I try to explain it as short as possible. You know, first of all, a lot of people are against communism. You have to understand, communism is needed in a place like China, where you have a very limited land, 2 billion people to feed, and your priority is just to keep them alive. So there are places like China, you have no choice but to create those classified citizens, but to create the limits that they have just to be able to feed everybody. Are they doing the best job in the world? No, probably not. Who is doing it? So that's the one thing about communism. But the thing we talked about was basically capitalism and socialism last time. Our focus was on that. Because especially my American friends are so against socialism and they think it's the same with communism. And they all go for nobody tells me what to do way, which is not right, by the way. Everybody tells them what to do. They are just not understanding it. Let's talk about that one. Because, you know, America at the beginning used to be a socialist country, and people are failing to notice that part of the history. Eisenhower came in as a very good president, a president who probably did more than anybody else for the country, placed 90% tax on the businesses. Unless they would spend on the infrastructure, they would hire Americans and they would help the country grow. That's where the taxes would come to around 30%. That's basically socialism. But that was not sitting well with countries who did not like a country boom that way like America was doing. So the whole crazy idea of the capitalism came, and the fact that government is bad and it's our enemy. First of all, government is not our owner. Governments are our employees. Now, why would you hire an employee and not give them enough chance to perform for you, right? Because that's what capitalism does. Look at USA right now. 40 million people lost their job, 20 million lost their medical care. That most of the country anyway, 300 million people never even have. And all those troubles, while 600 people made $820 billion over the past 6 months. What is that?
And paying virtually no tax.
It's against your Bible. It's against the fairness of a society, if you understand it, that everybody is working and some few people are taking all the money. And all because of these ideas that I don't want to be controlled. But you are still being controlled just by the rich people, not by the government.
Yeah.
Government's supposed to be there to protect you, right? Socialism was created as a system between the extremeness of the communism and the craziness or anarchy of capitalism, where they said we hire government as an employee of us, we give them power, but we also observe them very closely, make sure they don't get corrupted. There are countries like Denmark, like Germany, that do it very right. And if you look at them, they are really happy. Something I never understand again, talking to American friends, even their scientists made a study, who are the happiest people around the earth. 10 out of 10 happiest countries where the people are happy are socialists. Why is it like that if socialism is so bad?
And most of the Scandinavian countries.
Yeah. Socialism basically says that. It says essential needs of people must be controlled by government. A person should not hold the plugs over what people really need for their lives. And there is a still free business going on, unlike what the capitalist countries try to act on it. There is a still, people can still earn their own money, do their own business. But it's just like that. Everybody works together. Everybody pays tax, not based on a percent, based on how much money they are earning. So all work together, all enjoy together.
You told me a story about the tall man, the middle-sized man, and the short man. And you related that to...
Oh yeah, that was a picture I saw in Facebook that explains everything. It was like 3 boys, one short, one average, and one tall, were trying to watch a football match, right? And they had 3 boxes. In the first picture, each of them got 1 box. The short boy was not even seeing anything. The
average man
was okay, and the tall man was just on the sky. The second picture, they gave 2 boxes to the short man, 1 box to the middle man, and no box for the tall man. And all of them were seeing fine. Yeah. And the title of the picture was, Justice is not giving everybody exactly the same. Justice is giving people what they need. And that's the truth. That's what socialism is talking about. You are rich. You are making like $500,000 a year. You gotta come pay 40% in taxes because you can. And that little worker who is just making, I don't know, $15 an hour in there, he works hard, but he pays as much as he can. And then we share it together. We just serve everybody. And that's what even Bible says, right? Work hard, pay your taxes, take care of your neighbors.
And that's a very poignant point that you mentioned, to give everybody what they need as opposed to giving everybody what somebody else thinks that they need.
Yeah, everything you do, first of all, there is no perfect system for this planet. I don't say socialism is perfect, especially if you do it wrong, like UK, it can go bad, right? So you have to have certain rules. You have to really observe it well. But it's not as extreme as, these capitalists try to explain it. I don't want people to just live for free and I work for them. I'm sorry, Denmark and Germany, some of the best example of socialism. Nobody wants not to work in there. Okay. Because once you give a basic education and needs to people, they want more. Who is normally not willing to work or not willing to study? We have an example of it here. People who are uneducated. People who don't have the basic needs in their life, they never know what life is. You right. Give everybody a little taste of life, everybody wants more of it. Nobody's going to sit down and do nothing.
On that basis, we'll have to call it quits. Thank you very much for a very, very interesting talk and a point of view that comes from somebody from a part of the world that a lot of people are not very familiar with. Thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.